Just waiting for people to show up. So what do you work with, Torbjörn?
I work as an Agile coach for Skatteverket in Sweden.
Interesting.
Nice.
Mm.
So it's not a software development people you are working with?
Sorry, what was that again?
I was saying whether it's software development people that you were working with.
Yes, indeed.
I see.
We have some 17 Agile release trains up and running by now.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Quite a big Agile organization, yes.
Nice.
Is this time of the year that you've been working a lot? Because that's when we hear a lot this time of day about Skatteverket,
exactly.
right?
A lot of declarations.
Time for declarations, indeed.
Yeah.
Correct.
Mm. True. Okay.
Yeah. I am really curious how many will turn up from hardware or electrical side that don't do that much software, because recently I have heard a lot of rumors that Agile is also adopted to many other disciplines than software. It's really interesting how this will go.
Yeah, like HR, Agile HR, they talk about.
Yeah, we have everywhere, as you know, in at Volvo. They just, I don't know what it means that much, but I know that we use it for everything.
Agile, DevOps, safe, different things. But most of big companies use safe, I guess. I haven't seen anyone that use Nexus or less, actually. So.
Yeah, last week I got caught with someone from the BMW, and they using less in their how we call it, those auto driving cars part of the company. Those, but I never heard before some other companies using less. That was the first time.
Good job. Hi Anna, nice to have you here. Feel free to put what you're working with and where you're calling from. Hi Stefan, nice to see you here. Feel free to do the same as others. We put in chat our name and what we're working with and where we're calling from. And I hope you hear us good. Otherwise, just write if it's something that you don't hear. Hi, Johan. Nice to see you here. Feel free to put your name and position and where you're calling from. And same for LR. I don't know what it stays for, but welcome to the meetup.
Was it snowing in the city as well? We had some snow here in Torslanda for an hour or so with big snowflakes.
Yeah, I like my Marina's background. Much nicer than
Yeah.
rain outside.
Definitely didn't snow there.
Yeah, I'm somewhere
Good.
else. Good. Hi, Pavel. Nice to see you here. And everyone, feel free to put your name, position, and where you're calling from. Like if you're working with Scrum, Agile, and which organization, what you want to share. Hi, Robin. Nice to see you here. We wait until all people to show up, so we wait maybe 2 more minutes or something like that. Good. I guess everyone's sitting at home. Or is it someone who stayed still at work?
Today I'm in this share office space, but I heard Vard is from his office, right, Vard?
Mm.
Yeah.
Sure. Hi, Britta. Hi, Linus. Nice to have you here. Welcome to our meetup, and put in chat your position and name and where you are right now, so we know who we have here. Great. Nice to see so many faces. Good. I think, Vard, shall we wait a few more minutes? So what do you think?
Yeah, we can give 2 more minutes and then we can go ahead and
Right.
While
And Mark will be our speaker today, and my name is Marina, and Marco and me are from Agile Göteborg. And Bart will have a great meetup today with you. And if you have questions or anything, I don't know, Bart, how you want to take it.
I'm thinking that going through the facts, and I try to elaborate what this might mean. And then maybe we invite people who raise their hands and want to comment on that or ask a question, and then we go one by one. So we make it a bit interactive, maybe. And then, of course, afterwards, we can go back and have more questions or reflections.
Hmm?
Yeah.
Sounds good. There's reactions down in menu if most of you have Teams or something else. So it says raise hand, and you can put it down as well.
Yeah.
Good.
A side question from me to Vard. Can you read messages from me in the chat, Vard?
Yeah, yes, I can see that.
Okay, perfect. Marina, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I think I was ready. Okay, but shall we start?
Yes, I can share my screen now with the presentation. So let's see.
nice. We have a lot of Agile coaches here and Scrum Masters mostly. There are developers and project managers as well. So really good. Okay. Word to you, Vard.
Yes. Let's see. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Nice. Then I guess I can go ahead. Good. So thank you very much for inviting for this talk. I am Vard Antinyan, technical expert of software quality at Volvo Cars, and this talk has a background in how could we communicate software research findings with our practitioners, and maybe we could help ourselves to learn what facts there are about this or that subjects, and then try to improve our way of working. And this has been the first episode because Agile had been so hot topic in the company, and we adopted it for 2 years back, and we barely are finishing this adoption now after 2 years. I thought maybe to answer some of the questions that are rotating still in our company is actually to go and find what research says about it. And then the goal is to present some of the best research results from this discipline. I've tried to go through in the past 5 years publications of the most important or prominent software engineering journals in the field and try to understand what they have to say. And I compiled some results here so we can look through. What I will do, I will present the facts, and then I will try to elaborate what this means for us. And then I will invite you to comment on that, and if you have insights about it to share, if you have ideas why it might be the case or why it might be important in one or another way, then we will learn from this together. Okay, let's go ahead then. So to remind what is Agile, this is actually what Agile Manifesto states, that there are 4 key values based on which this Agile methodology was constructed, like individuals and interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, and responding to changes over following the plan. And then there is a lot of space left open how to fill in this methodology, and a lot of methods had come to fill in here. So the answers, the questions that at least this research answered that I collected were these questions that you see in the screen. You don't have to read everything here because we go one by one, question by question, and try to see what they have to say. And the first was that to investigate which of the software disciplines move towards Agile generally in the companies in the world, and which of the disciplines stay in between Agile Waterfall, and actually which ones go towards Waterfall. What these guys did is that they collected from several thousands of people and teams, they collected data through structured interviews and surveys. And as you might imagine, they didn't ask the simplistic question of whether you think project management goes towards Agile, but they had a smart set of questions to figure out whether actually project management goes towards Agile, with the more like several kind of leveraging questions to each other. So the respondents answered some of the questions knowingly that this relates to project management, and some other questions maybe subconsciously or unknowingly. And what they found is that only 15% of the practitioners implement project disciplines strictly agile or strictly waterfall. The rest of the practitioners, 85% of them, actually were on the transition phase. And if we count that agile has been around for 20 years, a bit more, we can say that we are still having a lot of people making transition towards agile. And as you will see in the end of the presentation, it has reasons why it can be the case. But what they found is that these disciplines are moving towards agile clearly. And these are project management, change management, requirements management, architecture and design, coding, integration and testing, and maintenance and evolution. We might have intuitively expected this, that these are the disciplines that we have been striving to become agile, and we can comment on this maybe. But before making comments on this, I would like to show the disciplines that actually stay as they are and the disciplines that move towards waterfall. And maybe we together can comment on why this might be the case. They also found that these three disciplines are staying balanced. They don't move anywhere. They don't become waterfall. They don't become agile. They've been staying as they are. Quality management, configuration management, and transition and operation. I have some good idea why quality management might be staying as it is, like balanced. And the reason I think is that because quality management has been traditionally practiced as a detached development activity or detached software engineering practice that is applied to the development. So we had quality departments or quality teams or quality assurance engineer who came to the team and did a checklist-based checking whether everything is done correctly according to quality principles. And if we take this practice and integrate with the development, then we don't have quality management as a separate discipline. We have just something that is called built-in quality, or care about the code, or care about the product, but it's not explicitly stated as quality management. And that might be one reason why quality management as a discipline stays a bit waterfallish, because while teams need to take care of their quality and they don't call it quality management anymore in the teams, other practitioners in the company, which are maybe in other departments or in a higher level than teams, like component levels in a larger organization, they still exercise somebody like an auditory body coming and checking whether you have done everything correctly. Of course, there are mature and immature ways of doing these things. Like, for example, if we want to become agile, we don't want a dedicated quality engineer who does the things, but everybody takes care of quality. And if we are immature in the team, maybe we don't really understand how to do that, and quality will go down. And maybe if we are mature, we really integrate quality management methods. For example, like clean coding principles are integrated, and maybe there is such thing called MISRA compliance, where we are trying to comply with certain coding principles, or complexity management, etc. But we don't really have a guy who takes care of this. The entire team cares about these aspects. The other two aspects, I don't have a good idea why configuration management would be staying balanced, or transition and operation. I will ask you, but before that, I want to show one more item, and that's the risk management as a discipline, the only discipline that is observed to move towards waterfall. And what I could find about risk management is that in a smaller scale, it seems that practitioners are not willing to conduct risk management because it's not that beneficial for the team. What happens is that Agile gives the opportunity to make changes quick enough. If it's 2 weeks, if it's 4 weeks, 12 weeks, it's still very short development cycle, and risks are taken care of by the Agile principles as they come and go. You can make changes at least in this time frame. On the other hand, risk management seems to be useful in a strategic part of the plan, where more higher level of managers, software project managers or larger product managers try to have risk management practices implemented, because with small cycles the product is getting developed, but the entire product, like technology level risks, what kind of for example at Volvo we are always concerned what kind of ECU we need to have, what kind of power it has, the memory load, the processing power, etc., etc. So there is a lot of technology connected with that, and then risk management makes sense when we look it in a 3 years of a time frame of project management, or 1.5 years, etc., etc. But if you would like to comment on why these disciplines would go towards Agile, or why this will stay balanced, or why risk management would go towards waterfall, please make comments, and I guess then Marina will coordinate that. And of course, if you don't have comments right now, I can move forward to the next fact. Good. Then we had then there was the next large study done again with a few thousands of people from many different companies in the world, and what they tried to find out is what problems do teams experience in large-scale Agile adoption. So these were large companies who tried to adopt Agile methodology in their company, and then they tried to scrutinize, talking to people, making surveys, making a few rounds of interviews with different expertise, try to understand what were the problems that people were experiencing. And here is what it appeared in different categories. Like, for example, in inter-team coordination, people were having trouble with synchronizing across dynamic teams. So in Agile environment, when changes become more maybe rapid and things are happening more dynamic, they couldn't synchronize across teams. Communication overload by Agile ceremonies, like daily stand-ups, scopes, etc., etc. So they felt that they are putting too much time on this. Enabling end-to-end development, which speaks about if you are a focused Agile team, somehow it jeopardizes the system thinking in large system development. Then we had organizational structure, like balancing between generalist or specialist teams. So there was more the trade-off between what kind of team do I want to focus or holding too many things. Mapping Agile roles to the old ones. This was a kind of discussion also in our company, for example. There were also sorts of roles, and then suddenly everything should have been standardized as developers or team members, and then PO, and then Scrum Master. How do we deal with this? Then we had architecture problems, like difficulty of seeing big picture, and that is very much coupled with enabling end-to-end development, for example, or lack of security and safety awareness, which is a large issue now, for example, at Volvo, because safety and security methods need a bit longer time maybe to do the analysis than the agile iterations allow. Plus, if we want to do per project or per round, then it becomes a lot of job, and it's really not straightforward. How can we conduct safety analysis over and over with every iteration, while back in the time we did one time for the project, or maybe twice with the review or something, and then it was done. So these are not straightforward at all. How should be answered? And these are also serious things, because if you are a car manufacturer or medical equipment manufacturer, you can't really you can't really walk over the safety and say, okay, maybe we solve it later. Then we have requirements engineering problems like coordinating changing requirements, which always has been a problem. And it seems that after Agile adoption, it is as much a problem as it was before, because this problem was found from 1990s and has been persisting so far. Prioritizing value across customers and formulating small and measurable stories in order to implement them and say, okay, we are done with this thing. And again, because you develop a big system, a small story, standalone story it takes really hard designing job to make them decoupled from everything else. And that's a challenge. More challenges are with method adoption, like too many agile roles, events, and artifacts. And that goes back to like mapping old roles to the new roles or having too many ceremonies. You can see that these things are correlated here. And adapting Agile to hardware units, for example, in our case, this was a big problem. And even now, after 2 years, we still have requests that this doesn't work. How should we do that? And nobody knows the answer really. And if you look the literature, nobody has really conducted any research, it seems, as much at least as we can look for about Agile adoption to hardware. And to that point, there is really fundamental things there to consider, because there are these two fundamental problems or differences between hardware and software. And one is that software you can change anytime you want, and hardware you can't really. And the second fundamental problem is that software is orders of magnitude more complex than hardware. So you can't really anticipate the changes that will come after. And these two fundamental differences affect the kind of methodology that you apply to software or hardware. Then we have then we had like team-related issues like lack of ownership of user stories, overcommitment to deliver speed, and here the most confusing part that I have seen, at least, is that we talk a lot about speed, but hardly ever realize that speed is not it cannot be an aim, but it's a consequence of the type of development that we have. If we have good development, good flow, good quality, internal quality of architecture and code, then we get a better speed. And the better we do, the better speed is the output. But if we focus on the speed, what do we get really? Is it hurting us? Is it really the wrong thing? Are we barking up the wrong tree? What does that mean to focus on the speed? Lack of team autonomy again touches the issue of mature and immature team, because later we will discuss this point that mature teams need more coordinating management, and immature teams need more directive kind of management. We have project management problems like conflict between long and short-term planning, meaningful metrics for performance, and these are, I would say that it's not, at least from my perspective, what I understand, meaningful metrics for performance is generally an issue for software engineering rather than an issue for Agile. Then there have been factors that helped in establishing Agile. These were process-related factors like well-prepared planning is usually good, even the iteration is short. If you plan well, that has good positive effect. Full-time dedicated teams. And then you can see that different arenas for coordination. In the previous slide, some complaint was that we have overload of Agile ceremonies, and some other people this as an opportunity that you can customize, you can go to different arenas for coordination. And maybe this is what should be taught to our practitioners, that we should be able to customize it, and we should behave agile, basically. Principles ahead of metrics, and that might be connected to the previous point that if we don't have, if we have difficulty of creating meaningful metrics, then maybe principles in that case should be ahead of metrics. And then maintaining transparency across teams, which is always good. Customizing agile ceremonies, yes, and standardizing agile practices across teams. And standardization always, or almost always, works good. And in the cases when it doesn't work good, at least one can do a bit of their own. But the default way of working with standardized processes, I think, gives the opportunity to talk the same language, and this is what I think this reflects. Now we have management and organization facilitators, like leadership commitment for agile adoption, like everybody wants to go the same direction to become agile. That, of course, is good. Buy-in from all stakeholders, that everybody believes we should do this. Flexible budget, and this flexible budget is actually tricky with when we have suppliers, because traditionally large companies are paying to their suppliers based on the workload. Like the supplier should approve the workload. We should approve the workload, and then the team can go ahead with the development. But that takes substantial amount of time every time to approve. So the idea was that what if we don't buy the product development, but we buy the teams from the supplier, and instead we are paying with the same rate to the teams, and then we don't have to approve, and then we increase the flow. For example, in one case I calculated this waiting time in a year, and in 54 weeks, which is a year, 17 weeks was just waiting time. Imagine 17 weeks out of 54 weeks was waiting time, because we had to approve, and the supplier should approve what kind of functionality is developed and how much we should pay. And that maybe hiring teams is more standardizing it and trying to prioritize our workload so that that can become agile as well. Then we can go to the next facilitators or factors that help, like training for all agile adoption. That's what the coaches do a lot. External coach for support method adoption. Community of practices, these COPs that you know, like COPs of Scrum Masters, COPs of product owners, etc. They can share, they can learn from each other, and again in a customized way, so we don't have the overload. Sharing a common vision, trust among teams, things that probably not only is important for agile teams but any team. Then technology, which is well-structured information and knowledge sharing, and joint or common infrastructure. And that's very, very crucial, because we want that everybody delivers with similar tools or the same tools to the same pipeline, and the language, again, that we talk with each other is kind of the same. Okay, so if you have any reflections on these problems and success factors, you can just mention or comment or ask question, and then I will go ahead with maybe the more interesting facts that are more crisp.
Robin Morero, I think you wrote something on the message before. Would you like to add something to Vard?
I was just reflecting on these disciplines that were moving towards waterfall or so, but I mean, these are disciplines that are essentially, I would say, disappearing in really agile environments. I don't see those anymore, a lot of those in strong agile environments.
All of them, or
I mean, they changed. They called something else configuration management. I haven't seen a role for that in like many years now. It's called now it's like ops or SRE or DevOps or whatever you call it. But I mean, it's called something else. So they're evolving, I think, into something new.
Yeah, but do you mean that the name is changed or the substance itself is changed. They don't configure anymore, or they do it fundamentally different way.
They're changing in that there might not necessarily be a discipline on its own. It might be embedded in something else. Or it might be changed to another name, or it might be handled in a different scenario.
Yeah.
So I think that's a pretty clear reason for that. Also, quality management is handled differently as well. It's still like an area, but it might not be a discipline. And also risk management, I guess.
Yeah.
But I'm not that used to scaled Agile, more smaller Agile environments.
But I guess you rarely experience, I guess, risk management in small scales, right?
I mean, we still do it, but we don't call it risk management. We call it like risk handling and development teams or whatever. Like it's embedded in the process.
Embedded in the process, exactly.
Yes.
You don't give it as an independent discipline to deal with.
No, we need a skill set, but we don't have discipline for it.
Good. Other comments? Good. Then we can go ahead with the next question. And the next question is, what methods and practices do influence the degree of agility? And this was interesting. So what they did, again, very large study with many software practitioners from different industries. By the way, if you want to reach to the studies, in the end of every slide, in the bottom of every slide, you can see the study there, and you can access to that if you want to check something or read about the method. So you have everything there afterwards. But the methods and practices that influence the degree of agility. So they took a bunch of methods and practices and they said, okay, we need to understand which of these make big influence or becoming agile, which of these make small influence to become agile, and which of these doesn't have influence at all to make development agile. And what they found is that extreme programming has the highest influence in making agile. And of course, that is not surprise, because that's kind of the philosophy of maybe one of the philosophies behind agility, that you do a lot of coding and prototyping, testing and coding, and then your code grows as you go. Of course, that's the way you handle changes. That's the way you handle kind of risks and small tests underway, etc., etc. Then you do Scrum, which has again high influence. Backlog management, DevOps has come in the high influence. Then very importantly, I think continuous integration and continuous deployment, which are a big part of the puzzle. If you want to have agility, I think it makes sense that you should have this loop to make small change, integrate with the entire system and see it works, and then do it again and again and again. So you make sure that you have a working product growing rather than components growing and then coming together and usually not working. And then refactoring has a large impact. And when we say refactoring here, of course, as you will see in later slides, this means refactoring in a continuous basis as part of your development, design and redesign and redesign and yet redesign again. And that's important. Then there were other factors who had also positive influence on agility, like definition of done, clear definition of done, retrospectives, velocity-based planning, PI reviews, program iteration reviews, collective code ownership of the team. For some reason, test-driven development, I haven't understood that, but at least it has some small influence. Maybe it's because then the tests are somehow becoming the requirements or stories in some way, and it also goes into this development process. User stories, these all have some positive influence, small but significant influence on making your process agile. And then there are other methods and practices that they found do not have influence on agility. And the funny part was that they found scaled agile framework doesn't have influence on agility, which of course we have adopted at Volvo. And there were a lot of discussions here when I presented here. I don't know what your reflection would be on that, but maybe it's just a framework, and in low levels it exercises agile, while scaling up it just gives a structure, but it's more process structure, but not making things agile. Spiral model doesn't make it agile. You know this old Barry-Boehm's model, when you do repetitively coding, designing, coding, and testing, and you make the cycle bigger and bigger, but obviously it didn't make things more agile. Burn down charts, automated code generation. Code generation, I think it's kind of intuitive. It doesn't make, because doesn't really matter which way you with which means to develop code, with domain specific models or code. Probably it wouldn't have any impact on agility. Then design reviews doesn't have impact. End-to-end system testing, model checking, prototyping. For some reason, prototyping that we talk a lot about. Release planning, Scrum of Scrums. While Scrum had large impact on agility, Scrum of Scrums they found they don't have. And the use case modeling. I just want to mention one example here. Something that doesn't make a work agile, or the process agile, doesn't mean it's bad, because in larger scales where things cannot happen as fast as we want, we need still rigorous processes to take care of the situation. And a vivid example is the end-to-end system testing, for example. We are not always agile with that because of the testing rigs. Many software from different suppliers should come together in order to test it, but we can't really do it daily basis or even in a weekly basis. Often we can't even do it in monthly basis. And but it's very important because it ensures the seamless operation of the system. If you have any comments on these practices and methods, please make comments or ask questions if you wish, and then we move forward to more like maybe quantitative part, and that would be interesting.
Maybe you already said it and I missed it, but how did they define agility here?
Yeah, it was these 4 principles that responsiveness to change. Basically, it embraces this idea of responsiveness to change, like people and communication over processes and tools, working software over documentation, welcoming the change.
Yeah, but how would you measure it in a study?
That's the thing. The thing is that Agile, you wouldn't say that Agile is a very kind of rigorously defined concept, but they had to take these ideas and try to formulate the right questions and try to triangulate their own questions. So when they get some results, they would check with another set of questions and yet another set of questions, like 3 independent sets of questions, and try to understand whether they agree with each other. And I guess that's the level of detail I can give, but the rest would go even more methodical and scientific method section, which we need to extract from the research papers that are put there. Then we can have these doubts and maybe whether it's done right or wrong. But I know that like one of the papers who conducted this large study were like 50 authors, and they did it like 3 years or something. So I hope that they have been. I'm pretty certain they have been thinking about these aspects a lot before going live and doing their interviews. But please check the method section of the study, and then you'll get more of the details. I wouldn't like to go too much into that.
Right. Thanks.
We have a comment from Per. I can read it, but Per, would you like to maybe ask Vard? I think Per is muted, but I can read it then on the message board.
Yes.
I think you just answered this, but if the practices don't impact agility, are they then bad, or should still good to do? Don't impact agility. Are they then bad? Stop doing, or should still good to do? Keep doing, start doing. About practices that don't impact agility, should we stop doing them, or are they bad in a sense that we should stop doing them, or?
I think I got the question. I think the thing here is a tricky question. When we say we want to become agile, we don't really mean by that we don't really mean that it's the end value for us. So to become agile is not the end value. It's valuable to become that, but that's not the end value. The end value is to have very good software, very high quality, on time, within budget. And with happy people. That's the kind of end value. And we have agile as means to reach there. So if you look at it from that perspective, you can see that certain practices, for example, here, like if you are not a team who develops a web-based system, which if it's agile, then it's good, because agile means they are respondent to the change. They are mature in a way. And as you will see that it has to do with maturity. But if it's 3-4 layers higher, like a car testing or a banking system or a medical equipment, there is only so much agility you can implement in that. You can't be more agile than certain level. And if it's so, then your paradigm is kind of somewhere else. Your level is somewhere else, and that somewhere else needs its methods as well. Like as I brought the example, end-to-end system testing. We don't know yet if we will come to a time when in all sorts of software development, we can have agile system testing. Like on a daily basis, we can do a system test continually. We don't know whether we will arrive there. Maybe there will be great tools who will allow that, and maybe it's not based on the tools. It's more essential problem, how people design the software, and maybe we will not arrive there. So if you look at from that perspective, it's very hard to say whether these practices are good or bad. Therefore, I think when we look at these practices, we should see whether it contributes to the end value rather than it contributes to the agility. At least we should take this. In many cases, we will see that if it doesn't contribute to agility, it doesn't also contribute that much to the end value. But I'm afraid there will be cases when it will not contribute to agility, but it's essential activity that should be done in order to get the system right. And from my perspective, for example, if we don't have end-to-end system testing, we will fail. So from that perspective, it's a good practice to have. There is no way to bypass that. On the other hand, I don't know how use case modeling, if I don't do it, will affect. Maybe I should be smart and sometimes I do it, in some other times I don't. It depends on what kind of design it requires. Or automated code generation is maybe a matter of taste, or it maybe depends on the type of system that you develop. If it's very safety and security critical system, maybe you develop with Simulink because it has so many restrictions, it can't go, not many things will go wrong. And if you are a web-based developed system who doesn't have many security related issues, maybe it's better to code and test because you skip the modeling part, and then you are reducing one of the steps towards the customer, and maybe it's better. So it requires this smartness, I think, and I think we can skip really that part. Good. So the next slide, which is my favorite because it kind of shows a culmination point in the presentation. This next study investigated what factors do affect on-time delivery of working software in Agile development. They did this huge investigation again, and they found that task dependency and team dependency, or task complexity and team dependency together, which I call complexity in this slide, has the largest was the largest by the number of people who said that it was a problem. They weren't, again, in the methodological, from the methods perspective, they weren't asked whether task dependency or team dependency affects your delivery, but they were asked all these questions, what affects, and they would explain their reality, and these guys would collect that, okay, from these people, it is the dependency between his task and the other team's task. Or for this developer, it is the connections of the data between his function and the next person's function. And then they would identify all these problems. And it turned out that then complexity is the biggest problem when trying to deliver in large organizations. So we don't really know this complexity thing is going better or worse with Agile. We don't know that for sure. And the reality is that out of 35%, out of these 2,800 people, 35% said that these problems were eminent in delivering. Then to my complete surprise came 25% requirements refinement. So 1/4 of these people in some way explained that if their requirements were not refined or properly expressing what function a system should have, in the end of the day, they couldn't deliver because they did all development, design, testing, etc. And upon delivery, they could see they are not conformant to some things that they should have developed because requirements hadn't been properly put there and haven't been done in some kind of review or simplifying or being more specific. And 1/4 of the people had a problem with that. If you look it from this perspective, that requirements, this keyword that is a lot discussed, we don't call it requirements, but what system should do for customer. From that perspective, maybe it become more apparent that, okay, but that makes sense because if people don't have properly people haven't understood properly what they should deliver to customers, then probably, yes, of course, it is a problem. And then there is the 15% up there, we have organizational alignment, which talks a lot about our architecture and its alignment to the teams. How decoupled components do we have in the system, and how well the teams are kind of focused on these components, like one team per component. So we have this good alignment. And so I believe, to my belief at least, this organizational alignment is very much correlated with this task complexity, 35%. That's at least what I can sense from here. And of course, we have 22% continuous delivery. which comes to prove again and again and yet again that if we don't do small changes and integrate together, but we rather go big component developments and try to merge, that's a problem. And it's been pretty clear in many other research that has been conducted in the past years. We also see that skills and knowledge, 10% of the people said that that's a problem. The reason why we might get it lower than the actual number, because the teams who were asked, actually the teams who had good knowledgeable people in their teams, they wouldn't notice that problem. But only people who had skill problem or knowledge problem, they would notify about that, and it would come some number. But I think it's still a significant number. On the other hand, things like communication got like 3%, which is again surprising for me, and I couldn't have a maybe good idea why it would be the case. Maybe some of you guys would have good idea or at least some ideas to give rationale on that. And the poor code documentation and bugs, for example, 6%. It means that if there are bugs and the system still can work, they still delivered. They didn't look at the bugs, right? And also lack of code quality, which also 3% is very low. So if you have lack of code quality, but your system works, they still delivered, despite the system will become slower and slower and slower maybe, but because it works, they deliver. But again, if we go back to the complexity problem, it seems that because of complexity, actually the system didn't work. That's why they couldn't deliver. Otherwise, if complexity was a problem that system still works, but it's complex, that wouldn't be a problem. It seems that complexity has been hindering a working system. That's what it looks like. And if we look the top 5 factors, we can see that maybe only one of these is tightly connected with agile methods, and that is continuous delivery. Because the idea is that continuous delivery has kind of grown with the agile community as one way of responding to quick changes and finding problems as early as possible. Rest of the problems seems to be software engineering, fundamental problems that no matter what kind of method you apply, they will come up anyway. That's the way it looks to me, at least. Do you have any comments on this?
I would just tend to disagree. I mean, complexity is something that agile methodologists try to break down in order to prototyping and do quick discovery of complexity. I mean, you try to quickly find complexity to break it down and not have as complex development, right? So you try to address that, wouldn't you?
I can bring one example. You can check how it will go. If you are pressed to delivery in a shorter and shorter development times, even though you have the knowledge that you should take care of your code and make the code better quality, but still we have most of the developers are average developers. That's why they are called average developers. Wouldn't that statistically mean that most of the people wouldn't take care of that problem? And that's something that I couldn't answer so far. Because it would be the excellent developers or the ones who are truly agile and mature teams who will take care of the problem of complexity. But most of the developers, I think, will try to get away with just working software. And this growing complexity in a gradual way may be a kind of problem when you put a frog in a cold water and try to warm it very slowly, and then it cooks without noticing it. So the system grows too complex and nobody noticed that. And one day they see that they are too slow. It's not agile anymore. I have suspect that might be the case for a significant amount of teams because average developers are kind of most of the people.
But aren't like 4 of the 5 connected? If the organizational alignment, they don't know how to be agile or don't have the skill or knowledge to be agile, they don't know how to refine their requirements, and the tasks become complex because the requirements aren't there. So it seems like to me that 4 of the 5 are like maybe connected and the same root to the problems.
Maybe the case, and then the good question is to ask: is better aligned organizations are the agile ones, and the ones who are not aligned well are kind of rigid ones? Then that's the thing. If you want to make the claim that better organizational alignment should be attributed to agility, then I think you are right. But then we don't know whether that's the definition of. We don't know whether we want to ascribe organizational alignment to the agility. At least I don't know. Maybe if somebody has worked with like organizational structure or how to form the teams around together, etc., maybe that person can know better in this case. We have like here team stability 4%. I would imagine that a stable team would have been better in delivering rather than people coming and going all the time. But somehow it has collected 4%, for example. And again, I don't have a good idea, but only that most of the teams who were asked maybe were stable. They didn't hire and kind of fired many people all the time. But probably it's a better assumption. I don't know.
But it correlates with the studies in psychological safety and so, right? I mean, stability didn't seem to matter as much as having a good psychological safety, so that
that's
someone
right.
left it picked up.
Yeah, very, very, very good comment, I think. I have a slide on that, and yes, that's actually the case, yes.
I was also thinking regarding this question, on-time delivery. To me, it's sort of a question that is strange. It sort of implies that you should deliver a certain amount of requirements or whatever at a certain time, and I don't know if that's agile to me.
Yeah,
I mean, Scrum, for instance, you deliver at certain points, usually, and I mean, so if you should deliver working software, it's just a matter of, so you deliver, you're ready to deliver at the end of the sprint, and then it should be working software, so it's on time every time.
So you mean that people who were asked were not at least to a very good degree agile in order to be able to have valid answers on this question?
I think that the question might be wrongly posed, and while I've been listening also here, I think one of the big problems with large scale agile is that it is a top-down thing, and it's usually adopted from management that now we're going agile, and we're using this, for instance, SAFe, which is very popular, large scale, and it's pushed down to teams, which are not necessarily good at working in with the agile principles in mind and so on.
And again, it comes to the maybe maturity that teams who are not ready to grab agility, they should be helped first before they can go with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you need to understand and really take the principles to your heart to be able to work in an agile way. If you're sort of forced to work in certain ways, which also in what you said, and many of the big companies do, they don't allow you to do where create your outcomes in the way you want, because you need to sort of have the standardized way, and that you should be doing 4-week Scrum, etc. etc. So I mean, it's going from one structured way to another structured way that isn't sort of bottom up.
Right. So it's more like, and maybe often it's also a bit of fashionable to adopt something that says everything is agile, but in the core of it, it still has this bottom up, this top down approach. And I would say that I have seen here at least trying to leading the teams and larger organizations around the teams to go agile and being more like advisor or coordinators, but that didn't work at all because the team members, I think, expected a clear directives what should be done, and that went chaos. I think that went chaos, which was worse than waterfall. So okay, let's go ahead with some more facts here, and then maybe we can talk about that, because there is a last slide concerning to that. So there was this guy who worked a lot with agile methods. 20 years or so has been in the field, prolific writer in journals, and had done some experiments and case studies with companies. So this is there are 3 slides that he's summarizing what he found, and he separated these 3 things into the good, the hype, and let's say the bad. What is good and what is hype and what is bad in agile. That's what he said. And these 4 points he thought are excellent in agile. They're really good, he said. And the first point, of course, is refactor every day. It is a part of the design. So when you make software, you make it simpler and simpler and simpler, and with more and more care. And you develop this mindset called built-in quality. So you don't need quality assurance on that, but you take care of quality as if quality is part of the design. So there is no discipline, as I think as Robin said, that there is no separate discipline as quality management, but you take quality in the design, and you do it through redesigning and rethinking and redesigning it all the time. It's your job, kind of. The second is using development iterations, which are short, and you use it with CI machines. These are very important to always have a working software all the time. and this has been working. He noticed that this has been working everywhere. The third one is don't branch, and this has to do with the complexity reduction again. This has been one of the primary tools to get rid of one of the facets of complexity. Keep one main branch and everybody goes there. Everybody commits there. If you branch, it gets worse and worse and worse, and then never comes back to merge again, or very rarely comes back to merge again. And then whoever comes from wherever comes, if you freeze the iteration backlog, you can't put new changes in there. You can define how short your iteration is. Make it shorter and shorter, but when you have it, and then when you have decided how many things will go into this iteration, you should be relaxed and you should be focused in order to do this. Nobody should come and say, oh, this is very, very, very important thing that we should put in backlog. That shouldn't happen, he claims. He says it's better to make your iteration shorter rather than accept changes. Otherwise, it will go to chaos. And it's not agile. So this is one of the distinguishing points, I think, that between chaos and agile is well planned, but it's very short kind of loops, and chaos is no plan. And then he goes to the hype part in agile, which is like, for example, pair programming. He noticed that and he brings some experimental studies that measured the productivity or quality difference between pair programmed software and other methods, and there were no significant difference. The only place where this pair programming was more effective seemed to be when the task required different domain knowledges. So people could pair together with different knowledges and then they could do tasks together. And often the problem with this was that sometimes people doing pair programming together, they developed a coach or mentor and junior relationship, and that wasn't positive, or at least in that case positive, but it was at least entirely different method. Then creating open space offices to boost collaboration didn't turn out completely right. Sometimes it hindered collaboration with the noise and disturbances, and other times it was used as if it's a good thing, try to pack more people together. Letting the team self-organize in case when you know the team is not mature. That was a problem that created chaos. And planning poker was so charming, but it was just one of the rough ways of estimation, and there are several ways you can do that. So he called this hype or the indifferent methods of agile that didn't have any significant difference from other methods of equivalence.
Vard, can I ask a question regarding pair programming? Because I wonder, was the knowledge sharing part and ownership of code parts measured as well, or was it just outcome?
It was, I think, what I understood was the outcome actually.
Okay, because I think that the good thing with pair programming and mob programming is the knowledge sharing, the ability of people getting more T-shaped and so on.
Right.
That's one of the main things with that.
I think in a long term way, if we think that way, we need to understand more things rather than at that moment was the productivity, because later after 2 months or 3 months both people might become productive, and but then the confounding factor is if you do with other methods, don't you share knowledge, and then it should be of course counted in the experiment.
One question about self-organizing. To me, it seems like self-organizing is kind of cornerstone of everything which builds around it in Scrum, at least. What is alternative? How else can you achieve ownership and focus and courage if there is no self-organization?
Yeah, that's a very relevant, I think, question, because the reality was that self-organizing is the highest stage of maturity. You want to definitely achieve there. That's where you want to be. The problem was, though, that you put inexperienced or a team together, they don't know each other, and you say, please self-organize, and then they go to chaos. And then there should be at least 4 stages I will show in this psychology study, that before reaching to self-organizing stage, that there should be a mentor, somebody who knows how this should be done, to coordinate or to direct the team to go to that level, and then leave them alone, kind of, when the team has become mature. But at least from my personal perspective, the best alternative, I think, is to be self-organized if possible, but then you need to reach to that maturity to be self-organized. I know that, for example, I come from a country where we have been belonging to old Soviet Union, and there have been a lot of like directives there. This should be done or that should be done, and then if you put people who have been used to getting orders and doing that, you suddenly let them go self-organizing. They look each other and say, what should be done now? Did you hear anything should be done? And
okay, may I say that actually the self-organization is achieved within time frame of project. Basically, it's not kind of thing which is kind of reached by some elite, but actually every team gets self-organized, but not in the beginning, but somewhere probably in the middle, and they are led by mentor till that point. Am I correct to say that way?
I don't know, actually. If you say, probably you have a good reason to say that, but unfortunately, I don't have the knowledge to say yes or not to that. And then what's bad in Agile that they have observed this. One is the rejecting upfront design, and this is what comes as a bit epidemic in many places, where we think that we can just go developing things and it will evolve, and it will, by evolution, will grow into well-designed product. And unfortunately, that's not the case, and unfortunately, that hasn't been the case with even the evolution, let alone with human-created artifacts. We always need to have some design considerations in mind, architectural considerations in mind. The old tough job of architect still stays there, and it's hard to imagine what will replace it. Agile method, or process, or some kind of way of working, or I don't know, anything else. But this is a point where I don't have any experimental data to say that this is bad, but at least this guy claims that rejecting upfront design is actually troubling. And at least from my experience, I can say that we need the old tough job of the designer or architect every now and then to redesign the system or part of the system to make it simpler, to make it smoother, to make it compliant. And it's better to be in a systematic way, going with the spirit of Agile. Then skipping requirements part and just writing stories that are more towards customer and try to implement code one by one. That goes well with the first point. If we write stories one by one day we are going to find out that stories contradict together, or or they make the system so complex we can't write stories anymore, or we are too slow. And so we need some kind of design requirements, at least the core ones, to keep the philosophy or the system structure explicit. And then there has been maybe some trends here and there, making the iterations vanishingly short, going like 1 day or 2 days or something like that. Of course, there is a healthy optimal limit to that. We don't know, nobody knows what the optimal limit is, but we surely know that if we go too short, that will hurt the development. And the last one is, of course, push any newly developed code into the CI machine and it will fix itself and it will give feedback, and doesn't matter, just put the code there. Unfortunately, that's not true. If you put garbage into the CI machine, it will produce garbage, and it will give a lot of feedback on garbage. And then if you don't fix it, every time it will come back again and again and again until you have a simpler code. That's why there are so many gating systems like clean coding principles, complexity measurement tools, etc., etc. So we have simple, cared code, like writing code with care, and then putting the CI machine. And this was this 3 slides of this guy. And the 4th one is conducted with one of my friends, good friends, Lukas Grien from University of Gothenburg. He also worked at Volvo. So he conducted a study with his colleagues in the university, and they found a measure thing that team maturity entails team agility. So if so they could measure maturity as a social psychological construct of teams, and they took a lot of teams from Brazil, from here, etc. And then they measured agility based on other constructs. Some people have developed some measures for agility. The woman asked about it, and they used, I think, the same kind of measures, and then they correlate together. And what they found, interestingly, is that the more mature teams were more agile. And they also found that if you let less mature teams to go agile by their own, they become chaotic and they crash. So what they found is that in rigid teams, you need safety, inclusivity, and then just a moment, I want to remember these 4 words because these are important. So inclusion, order, structure, and safety. These were vital for the manager to provide to the team so they could feel confident in their team, and then they could go the first stage of getting to know each other, second stage of bringing arguments and counter arguments in a safe way, kind of respecting each other, questioning each other's ideas, but not each other's as people. These are very different things, because some people will identify themselves with their ideas, and one should be careful with people and try to explain that ideas can be stupid. People aren't usually. So there are very kind of subtle questions there. And then while to direct them towards more maturity, then you can become more coordinating or more supporting manager, more servant leader, and then they will do the job with high effectiveness. That turned out to be true according to them, which makes sense to me as well. But please, if you have comments about the last 4 slides, go ahead and share your views.
There's a question that I got here, Vard. Is there a connection between team maturity and the need for the redundancy of agile estimation?
Team maturity and agile estimation?
Yes. Is there a connection between them?
Unfortunately, I don't know that. Unfortunately, I don't know. At least I haven't found any study on that. I think there is something on productivity and I don't remember that one, but it's in the other lecture of mine. I don't remember, sorry. I have bad ideas.
I think on previous slide here, the bad habit of vanishingly short iterations was kind of interesting. It sort of implies to me that Agile equates to Scrum. But as far as I know, working in Kanban, where you don't have iterations at all, is also Agile. So I mean, and they do without iterations. So how come that point there? I don't know.
I don't know either. If in Kanban they just develop working software without distinguishing any time that kind of you give a bit of official release of new feature or something. From larger system perspective, I don't think that will work, even though you can name it Kanban, but I mean, how do you solve safety problems, testing problems, security problems without giving a bit of time to go through an analysis or something?
It works. It works, but it works in a way that continuous delivery is one thing, and release is another one. Basically, what you do release constantly. Whenever it's ready by CI machine, you deliver to customer. Customers accept it, and then it stays.
I hope you are having a good week. I hope you're excited as much as I am about this webinar. This is.
I don't know if someone is just make sure if you are not talking to regarding this seminar, please mute yourself so then we can have like a more focus here. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Anybody else who has comments?
I just would like to follow up on what Stefan commented regarding Kanban. So you don't have iterations, but in Kanban, but you still have some kind of cadence, right? You still sit together as a team and do some kind of planning, and you still do review and you still do retrospective, at least according to the Kanban method that I know of.
You know, there's nothing prescribed almost in Kanban, so you can't. I agree with you. It's good to have a cadence and do retrospectives, but that's not prescribed. It's good to do some kind of planning, but that can be on an ad hoc basis. And reviews. Well, as whoever it was that said, I mean, you do continuous integration, but you also plan for certain releases, and maybe I don't know. I'm just speculating now, but then maybe some kind of review is used at the time of release. I don't know. So.
Yeah. So nothing is prescribed but recommended.
No, not even recommended. It's. No. I mean, there's very few things prescribed, and Kanban is supposed to. You're supposed to use the whatever fits your domain or ways that you want to work, etc.
Okay. Thanks.
Good. Then that's the amount of material I had today, and I think we are barely in time to finish. So thank you very much for participating. But if you have comments or if you want to connect with me, here is the contact. And yes, I guess you can take it from there. Maria should be here, I guess.
Yes, I'm here.
Marina.
And then I guess recording will be available as well, so it will be good. I don't know about slides, but it will be in recording. So
Yes, yeah, the recording and the slides will be published in the website, on Agile Gothenburg website, and also we're going to be sharing in our media channels, LinkedIn, Facebook. So if you just to emphasize that, Marina.
yes, of course. And thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you Vard for a really great meetup.
Thank you very much.
Thank you everyone. Have a good end of the day.
Have a good evening.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.